Okay, so my name is Roland Kager. Since 3-4 years I've been involved in research specifically on how do cycling and public transport and actually also cities and urbanization relate to each other. The start has been a national research program about this issue, which I was very honored also to be working on. And since then it's been a lot of things branching off from this. In the Netherlands actually we have, as you will see in the next slide, a very dynamic, rich system where cycling and transit are combined. But actually we didn't do any research or designing or planning for it specifically, except that we followed the trends. But now it's reaching a level that, well, more and more there's interest, hey, maybe we can make more value and maybe we can make smarter choices from this. And I see a culture initiating where we give more specific attention and specific data to this phenomena, which has been around in the Netherlands also for a long time, but it's growing and growing. So my presentation is about synergies. It's not about why cycling is attractive in comparison to cars or why transit is comparative to cars, but why, when you combine cycling and transit, you have synergies which go above these levels. So 1 + 1 is 3, or sometimes I say 1 + 1 is 4 or 5, you know, I'm in a positive mood. I will introduce some theory, practice, and mostly some data. I hope you've enjoyed reading my paper. I will mostly give some more context around it from what I've written in my paper, which is mostly abstract, and this is some more real data. I do a lot of data analysis and GPS tracking and some real patterns. First, introducing the Dutch, what I call the bike-train system. Actually, it's cycling and transit, but in the Netherlands, some 97% of where they meet is trains and not so much express buses and metro systems. We see here some of the iconic pictures of, well, this is Amsterdam, but it's just one way of looking. If you look that way, that way, that way, or you walk around the station, you see it everywhere. There are some 20,000 places there, and this maybe 800 or so. You see our Queen opening a new bicycle parking in Utrecht, where we're building and building and building, and some other happy faces. Okay, when I talk about the bike-train system, it's always, I've shown the pictures now myself, these bicycle parkings, very quickly the mind goes to these bicycle parkings. But I think the different phases of bike trains are much, they extend much further into the transit system and to the urban system. And I think all these images you see here, starting from this, but all the other people, just people in transit, just people on the platforms, just people in the station area, just people on normal bikes, they are all somehow part of this system. 50%, half of the persons in trains in the Netherlands, which is 1.3 million people a day, have arrived on their station by bicycle. So this half arrived by cycle, this half did not, but maybe they go by bicycle on other days or when they arrive at their station. Also in transport flow, with this data I see that around 40% of all cycle kilometers, so nearly half of all cycling kilometers in the Netherlands made in urban context, are on their way to or from a station. This is really impressive, where we think Holland is a cycling country, except this cycling country is mostly a bike-train country, because it's almost half of it meets, in any case, near stations. The same with all these people on this platform. You see these crowds, but half of them arrive by bicycle or continue a bicycle, or they cycle on other days. Okay, so 1.3 million daily travelers. 53% use a bicycle on either the access or the egress part of each trips. Bike on board, very specifically, is less than 1% in the Netherlands. We don't do, and you can imagine why. If half of the people ride a bicycle on the train, those bicycles wouldn't fit. And I hear this giving international presentations again and again, these concerns about bike on train. It's not an issue in the Netherlands, and it's perfectly accepted by anyone, because anyone can see you can't reach this scale of bike train we have if everyone brings their bicycle on board. It's not just bicycles on board, it's also the elevators, the platforms, the entrance times, etc., etc. We've seen a doubling of bike train journeys in the last 15 years. It grows by 5% per year, but this is a national average. Inside the city, we see much faster growth, and of course in rural areas we see slower growth. This goes very well with the rapid increase of cities in recent times. Bike share, we have seen a rapid increase here of 20 to 100% growth per year, and now it's at 2 million rentals per year over the whole country with 10,000 bikes, 300 rental stations. But with these growth percentages next year, this will be 13, 14,000, and the year after reaching 20,000, and it's been going on like this for the past years. Here's some exciting data. We've just made a big questionnaire together with the ministry, asking rail users specifically about their bike train preferences and patterns. We've, together with Dutch Railway Company, they've got a kind of user panel. We are 6,000 people living in this city, this city, this city, and the city not on the map to fill in a questionnaire. 55% responded, so this apparently is a theme. This is they never saw such a high return rate on their questionnaires, and 76% of them actually made use. We asked about patterns of the last 2 weeks, and then also some questions about how this was regularly. We see some recognizable patterns that out of this 76% of the people who returned, that 39% did not use a bicycle during this 2 week, and 41% did use a bicycle at least once this week, and some in the middle, and some skipped some questions. And here you see a matrix where I've put the percentage of the respondents of the total sample classified by the number of days they used the train and by the share of the bike. And already you can see by, of course this is not representative, but still it gives a good estimate that the people who use the train less, they made less use of bicycle to train, and the high train users, they made much more use of the bicycle. Here we also asked about car use, the number of days the respondent used their cars during this 2 week period. And it's a bit difficult to interpret it because it's very specific groups we are asking it, but still you can see this difference. They go through all groups. But you see that the people who did not use the train or used it only limitedly or used less cycling, they have higher car use during this period on a higher number of days. And this is car as a driver. We also asked that passenger. These are some interesting, I had a beautiful chance to work together with the ministry to design this questionnaire, and I've included some interesting facts that you know about bike train users. The first chance to measure some phenomena in the Netherlands about bike train users, which I'm happy are the outcomes. So first of all, we see that 4% in this 2 week period did bring a bike on board, at least once. 5% had a folding group, so these are very minority groups, but also a minority group was people having a subscription to a paid bike parking at a station, and even only 9% you possessed a second bike at the destination. These are all under 10%, so actually they are quite marginal phenomena. They do have a high impact, which I can't cover in this presentation, but they are actually minority groups. Reaching to some more higher level groups, well, first the rental bike system, it's called OV Fiets, but I think it's really interesting to see. We also asked, did you do some things while cycling from a station to your house? And we asked like 10 categories. I showed 2 of them. 21% visit a restaurant or cafe during cycling to one step to or from the station, so that's not at the station, it's also not at the home, but somewhere in between, so people change activities, and that was 1 out of 5 who reported so for restaurants or cafe, but 42% for shopping. We also asked for other shops or for visiting friends, and all there were something around 13% to these kind of range. So this is a strong phenomenon which people who combine cycling and transit, they chain activities on their way through the station, which is logical because you traverse urban areas, so there's a lot of opportunity to combine things. And this is how you get value as an individual from combining both modes, that you can combine activities in a flexible way. Also very interesting to note was that half people reported that their choice of destination stations, well, over the last 2 weeks, which they reported, was not representative of what they do in general. And I see this a lot happening, that people who have very flexible destinations, it's actually a minority group that has very fixed patterns from A to a B. Transit is a wonderful solution to visit urban places, and urban places, they are not static. They have center there, center there, center there, center there. Sometimes you visit that one, sometimes that one, sometimes that one, sometimes that city, sometimes that city. And with cycling, you can reach these stations to actually visit these centers. And this is indeed what 1 out of 2 respondents who made high cycling use to stations reports, that they ride a lot. And then again, the happy figures, 60% says the combination of bicycle to the train station was important to keep using the train station, so that's a big minority. The same even with happy with parking the bike at station, and 80% was happy with cycling to the station as a practice, and only disagree 80%. So apparently this is a strong. I have some theory, components, mechanisms. This is mostly covered, although on a conceptual level, in the paper. So I think this is all to be read in the paper. Yeah, maybe something about statistics. We see the average cycle trips to a station in the Netherlands is 2.7 kilometers, but it ranges between half a kilometer and 15 kilometers. So there's quite a big range. If you look at 410 stations, rail stations we have in the Netherlands, we see that only 90% of the Dutch population of the whole country lives within 1 kilometer of this station. But if you extend this to 5 kilometers, which is a cycling distance, then suddenly 80%, so 4 times a higher share of the Dutch population live within it. But this is just for any station. If you just look at the biggest stations, where the intercity network is based on, and where the whole transit system is based on, we see that only 1% of the Dutch population lives within 1 kilometer of these 17 stations. But 16%, so 16, not 4 times, but 16 higher share, live within 5 kilometers. Just 17 stations in the Netherlands, they have almost a fifth of the Dutch population living at cycling distance between them. And if you add the next 27 intercity stations, it rises to 29%. And because these stations are in each other's vicinity, these 29%, 1/3 of the population living near these 40 stations don't have just one station to choose from within 5 kilometers, but on average something like 2. If you have one station, the average is that you have 2 stations to choose from, like these intercity stations, within 5 kilometers. This is this statistics, 2.3. This is a complicated graph. It's well, maybe it's interesting here. I classified the percentage of trips made by walking, by cycling, or by transit of a group I've followed by tracking systems. We see the people who made 92%, so the 20% making the highest use of walking, cycling, and transit. Then here is the access mode to the station. Walk is 5.5. And, ooh, that looks complicated. Can I keep it in some quick way? So you see here that the number of transit trips they made through a week is around 10 of the highest users, and 3.6 of these trips are made by cycling, but also a lot by walking. So maybe at trip segments there is competition, but because the cycling and transit deliver good accessibility, overall you get higher transit usage, which also extends to more walking trips, and even the feeder access system, so bus, trams and metros, are higher for the high transit users and the high cycling people than for people using less transit and hence less bicycle. This is the number of kilometers made by car, that of the highest users. The car, they make 90 kilometers per week, but of the low user groups it's more than 400. I think a crucial component when we talk about cycling access, which we often fail to see, is that, well, maybe you can reach at the same time 3 times the distance to cover a station. But this goes quadratically. It's not just 3 times the radius, this translates to 9 times the area. And this makes a big difference. So you can serve an area, a walking access area, if you introduce cycling, which is 9 times as big for the same travel time to reach your station. Okay, I want to come to more the discussion and what I see as the prospect. And this goes a bit about the topic we are talking about, integration of cycling and transit. And then I've come to ask myself the question, why do we actually say integration of cycling and transit? Cycling, in my opinion, is part of the transit system. In any case, when it's combined at some point in the trip with a transit mode. So the word usage of integration already puts cycling outside the transit system, where I think the Dutch example is a good example where you can see that actually cycling is part, like the cyclist on the way to the station won't feel different from using a bus after he reached his destination than using a bicycle to reach his first station. It's just a trick train, and I think we should get rid of these boundaries, these rigid boundaries between the systems, at least when we want to integrate. So actually, I think it's more helpful to think not of modalities, but of mobility systems, where we've got an A mobility system, which is based on the car, and sometimes supplemented by cycling and walking, and sometimes with PNR, with the train or other forms of transit. And we've got a B system, which is largely based on cycling, standalone, standalone transit, or the combination of, sometimes walking, and occasionally the car, which can be a shared car, or any other combination. And I've put this in this is a urban transport system more and more, and this is more the rural system. But what happens if you move from a rural place to an urban place, and vice versa? Here I've made some analysis on exactly this phenomenon of the national transit travel survey in the Netherlands. I've combined here all 5 years, which is 250,000 respondents. This is big numbers. And I've classified them on whether you go from rural to rural, or from rural to urban, or from urban to urban, on various distance categories. And here you can see this division line between the A and the B system. When you go from rural to rural place, 5 to 10 kilometers in the Netherlands, 55% use a car. But if you do from urban to urban, the same distance category, it's only 28%. The same for transit, that's 1%, but it's 23% from urban to urban. It gets even stronger from 25 to 40 kilometers. 67% uses a car from village to village, or rural to rural, but 71% uses transit if you go from urban to urban. And this urban category is some 15% of the Dutch population. Some graphical illustration, we tracked 100 people and we tracked their cars by mode. It's some 14,000, it was a pilot study made with these 3 municipalities. Here we see all their car trips, here we see all their transit and bicycle trips of all users. So we didn't distinguish the users in this graph, we just see the same people using different transport modes. And I think it's interesting to see red is transit, green is cycling, blue is walking, and grey is car. Where you see that all cycling trips and all walking trips, if you know the areas of the station locations, they branch off the same location. So as anchor points of walking and bicycle mobility is the transit system. Finally, we see these trends are diverging. This is of the same national travel survey. Here you see the bicycle line, and you see it growing. The car line is descending, and of transit, it's growing rapidly. If you cluster on urban destinations, if you cluster on rural destinations, you see different trends. You see the cycling share decreasing and the car share increasing. So there seems to be some filtering out going on. A topic about Amsterdam and the Netherlands being so special. When I was a child, Amsterdam was a dangerous place to cycle as well. I come from a small village. This was Amsterdam when I was a child. Students at my University of Amsterdam made these wonderful comparisons of the same locations in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and how they are now. This is the 20s, by the way. Previous. And you see a rapid transformation has been going on. You see it also at our railway stations. I think they're becoming beautiful and beautiful. This is Rotterdam Central Station. This is Amsterdam Central Station. And if you look at the pictures a couple of times ago, you see wonderful things happening. And you see a lot of things happening in society with how we work, how we spend time, etc., which are, I think, very related to the growing role of cities, and hence the question how to reach those cities. Last slide is the discussion slide, which I want to wrap up my presentation and give some ammunition for the discussion. I think the first point which we have to discuss about, how much is cycling part of the transit system? Even if cycling is a small system, or it's initiating, for example, the bicycle share, would it be helpful to frame cycling as part of the transit system? And this raises some issues. First of all, yes, cycling and transit can be competing on trip segments, but if we take this broader perspective of how they are synergetic to each other and how they provide with a package deal for traveling to a multitude of destinations in a multitude of contexts, then they become synergetic, and then each mode, although competing on trip segment level, becomes synergetic at the activity pattern level. There are some terminology issues I want to raise with this. In these kind of sessions, I always hear a lot of multimodal, and I think maybe that's helpful. If we take this serious, the cycling is part of the transit system, it is not longer multimodal. It's actually monomodal or unimodal. Like also we say if you are in a local train and then you transfer to an intercity train, it's not a multimodal trip. I think cycling should be used the same. The same with first mile, last mile problem. I think it's a very negative frame. That's, I mean, you're also not saying the long distance problem which needs to be solved by the train. No, it's just part of the train. But also I'm worried about this mile concept, because the average distance in the Netherlands is 2 miles, and this is a very powerful potential that cycling offers, that you can increase the distance people can go to stations. So it's 2 miles or 3 miles or even 4 miles. And the people were very happy with the cycling, so maybe it's not so much a problem, but also an opportunity to experience the city, to bring liveliness to the city, and to vary things and combine your trip with other activities. Cycling inclusive transit functions, cycling inclusive transit as I call it, this unimodal system. I think it's important to note that it has very different dynamics, and it functions very distinctively from transit without cycling options. And having said so, I think there is a clear need for distinct data, but also terminology, analysis, and communication, how we talk about the system, how we plan it, even if it's not there yet, to make the mark on the horizon where we're actually going to. To connect the synergetic benefits with the cost, we're always talking about the problems, the costs, but there's very big synergistic benefits to be held, so how do we connect these to each other? And how do we bridge the gap between the cycling and the transit worlds in all our design and planning? And I think the role of the governments there is mostly to provide a level playing field and common interfaces for both worlds to connect better to each other. I think bike share is a strong first point for that, but it extends much further in how we plan the system and the urban system as a whole. So the last thing, yes, I think there is big importance for cycling transit, for the growing cities and the growing role of cities in our society. And I think we need to distinguish actual with potential. If you see the rapid increase of bicycle share system, but also a bike train in the Netherlands, it goes so fast. In 10 years, the system will be completely different from it now. So we need to envision that better in understanding and framing current data, current questionnaires, current capacities, and much more focus on where is slack capacities, where there's potential, where there are use agendas, and connect these to each other, a bit footloose from the current reality. I think that's mostly it. Thank you for your attention.